Natalie Neece, healthcare administration student. She's taken several classes of mine, and one of the classes she took that she really enjoyed a lot was healthcare law and ethics. So we thought this would be the perfect opportunity for her to share some of the information she learned about her topic. So, Natalie Neece.
Thank you. So as Dr. Robbins said, my name is Natalie. I'm a former student athlete here at Adams. I'm a current business major with an emphasis in healthcare administration. So as many of us know, medical identity theft, or many of us may not know, medical identity theft can be a big issue. And my goal is to bring light to the issue and aware people what can happen when somebody's medical identity is stolen. So we'll start with, what is medical identity theft? And it's the fraudulent accusation of someone's personal information for illegally obtaining services, maybe prescription drugs, maybe even physicians. They may want to use your physician. Some key terms that I want to talk about. The first one is HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. And what this act does is that it basically protects our information as patients. It's the reason why you go to the pharmacy and you have to stand back a little ways because they're talking, right? You're not supposed to know what other people are receiving. And in the HIPAA scope, or umbrella, if you will, is High-Tech Act. And the High-Tech Act is Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health. Mouthword, I know. But basically what the High-Tech Act does is it promotes the use of electronic health records. It encourages providers to use electronic records versus paper records. Paper records can be copied easily, they can be stolen, it can get kind of ugly. So next, how is it done? How do people steal medical identities? And I've listed a couple different ways. The first one is phantom treatments. And an example of this is a patient receives a bill for services provided that they didn't actually get. Maybe you got a bill from your insurance provider saying you approved or you have to pay for this, but it's like an intestine transplant, and you're like, ooh, didn't get one of those, definitely not me. That's something that can absolutely happen. The next one is double billing. This is where you get a procedure done. Say you actually did get an intestine transplant, but they billed you for multiple. Also not a good thing. But it can also be even like triple billing or so on and so forth. The next one is a substandard of care, and this really kind of blurs the lines with ethics. I think a doctor in Missouri once shined like a pen light into his patient's eyes and said he was performing cataract surgery. Was not performing cataract surgery. That did not happen. And the patient, maybe he or she didn't do their research and might have believed, yay, cataract surgery, I'm good to go. Not the case. And then the last one is, for just pennies a day, you and your family can get the medical insurance that you deserve. This is a giant facade. Chances are what they're going to do is they're going to take your premiums, your monthly payments, and they're just going to run away with it when you need to go to the hospital and actually use it. Or they're just going to jack up your premiums and then run away. And not only do they have your money that you've been paying them, but they also have your medical information. They have got some stuff that you probably don't want them to have. And how they can tell when this happens is, you go into the hospital, your clinic, and you say, oh, my insurance provider is blah, 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 and here's my number, and here's all the jazz, all the information. And they say, that's not approved in our system. That's not, so you may have to go somewhere else even. It can get pretty ugly. So next, so what are the victims left with once their identities are stolen? Several different things can happen to somebody when their identity is stolen. The first one is obvious, their credit is going to be destroyed. It can be difficult to get approved for loans, for a car, maybe even a house, false medical records. This can also result in misdiagnosis, which can lead to even further health problems, even further health concerns. And then the last one is extraordinary premiums. It can really rack up your premiums if, let's say, you're receiving phantom payments or phantom treatments and procedures. And you haven't said anything about it, you're just maybe sweeping it under the rug, maybe it takes care of itself for a while. You're going to end up paying for it in those premiums, and that's something we don't want to happen. The United States Department of Health and Human Services estimated that in 2009, between 27.8 and 67.7 million records were breached. That's a lot of records in just 1 year. And that's not to say that they could have all been breached, but maybe only 100 were actually fraudulently used. So it can vary, but that's still a scary number. That's a lot out there. So we know what it is. We know how it's done. We kind of know what happens to the victims. So what can we as healthcare administrators and managers do to help prevent this? Well, one of the ways, and I'm pretty sure most administrators and managers, maybe even health insurance companies do this, is they create an action plan. Let's hope for the best, but what if the best doesn't happen? What if the worst happens? So we want to put together a plan. Who are we going to alert? How are we going to alert them? What are we going to say? What are we going to do to get their trust back? The next one is transparency. Are we going to let our patients know that their records have been breached? Are we going to let our employees know? Are we going to let contractors know? It can be a big question. The next one is employee training. Sometimes employees, maybe doctors, nurses, had a long rough day. They just want to go home and write up some final notes in their paper or in their files. And oftentimes it's going to be on a laptop or a tablet per High-Tech Act. And maybe they left it there for the weekend and their house gets broken into and that laptop or tablet is stolen. That's something we need to alert our employees of and make sure that they're not taking any work home. The next one is security. We see that, usually doctors and nurses have a login and password that they use on the computers. Sometimes it's a hassle to them and it'd just be easier just to leave it unlocked, step away for a couple minutes and then come back. That can be bad. So oftentimes hospitals are doing a swipe card system on the computer or even a thumbprint scanner. Our phones these days have thumbprint scanners, right? Why don't our computers have that for medical records? And the next one is ethical hacking. I think this is really important mainly for insurance companies because you can hire another company to hack into your system, right? They're not going to use any of the information. That's not their job. Their job is to point out flaws in the firewalls, to point out flaws in the network itself, and then give a report back to the insurance company saying, here are things you need to do, here are things that you should do to strengthen your system. And the last one is kind of an obvious one, but it's still really important, laws and regulations. And this kind of goes back into transparency. It's not the law required by law that insurance companies and hospitals let the community know that it's been breached. However, it is the law that they tell their patients that their records have been breached. They need to know that. It's pretty important. So let's take it one step further, right? We know what it is. We know how it's done. We know what happens when it's done. We know what people and higher ups can do, but let's go one step further, what can you do? What can we as patients do to prevent this from happening? And the first one is keep a detailed log of dates, locations, procedures, and physicians seen. And it's easiest to start it as soon as possible, because if you run into something, before you know it, you've got all these appointments lined up, you've got all this stuff going on, and then you have to go back and think, oh wait, did I see this doctor at this time, and what did they say, and what do I need to do? The next one is ask questions. Doctors know a lot. Doctors and nurses know a ton. It's their job to know, right? But sometimes they don't know it all. So it's important to ask questions. There's a reason why they call it the practice of medicine, right? Because they're still continually learning. It's their job. The next one is reach out. We all probably in this room know somebody who is in the healthcare field, whether they're in the business side or the clinical side. They may be a nurse, they may just be a receptionist, but it never hurts to ask a question if you have a slight concern, like, I called the doctor's office, but they didn't say it was the doctor's office, and I gave them my information. Well, if you're calling a doctor's office, chances are they're gonna say, this is so-and-so's office, how can we help you, right? Something you might wanna ask. Another way to reach out is to, you know, if you get your medical records looked at or something fishy comes up, like you get a phantom treatment or bill in the mail, talk to somebody about it. Just say, hey, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, this is fishy, this doesn't look right. What can I do to reverse that, to fix it, because it's not me and I don't want to have to pay for it. And the last one is know your rights. It's absolutely your right to ask for your medical records. By law, your records belong to the hospital. However, you can have a copy of them. And if you start asking, oh, can I have a copy of my MRI or my blood work or my results from this or that, they'll just start printing it off when they get it and give it to you. So you don't even really have to ask for it anymore. They just hand it right there to you. And then also that falls into HIPAA. If you're standing at the doctor's office checking in, you know, you can say to the sweet couple next to you, like, can you sit back? I'm trying to, you know, discuss my appointment that's very sensitive to me, right? And you never have to tell your family. Also keep that in mind. So my question for everyone is, let's say we leave here today and we all think, gosh, I wonder what's on my medical records. Maybe I should go take a look at those. Maybe I should see what's going on. And you get your medical records and you're looking at them and you see, ooh, did I really receive blood work in May of 2012? And then you think, oh, yeah, I did. But then you see, pretty sure I didn't receive an MRI, though, in 2012, and I'm pretty sure I don't have a blah, blah, blah for whatever that MRI said. Is that going to be a HIPAA violation for your provider? What do we think? It's somebody else's information. Yeah? Incorrect. It's not a HIPAA violation, because for the hospital, as far as they're concerned, they're giving the right treatment to the right person. Or remote hospital, they've never seen you, right? They think, yeah, she's, you know, 6 foot, short, dark hair. They don't really know what you look like. So as far as they're concerned, that's the right person, but it's a HIPAA violation and it needs to be addressed. So I think if these are followed, we can ultimately help prevent medical identity theft from happening. And that's why this is so important to me, because it needs to be prevented. So are there any questions or concerns? Yes.
Adams State got hacked, Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Mm-hmm.
You know that?
Yes, Blue Cross Blue Shield did get hacked. At the time, I was using Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I believe we did receive some emails about that, and I did do my research on it. They're offering not only some medical identity theft prevention, but they're also offering regular run-of-the-mill identity theft prevention. They've got text alerts now. They've got a whole system set up because they want to keep people's trust.
Yes, it's called All-Clear Identity File Alert.
Yeah.
Did you sign up for that?
I actually
It was free. The
switched.
school was offering it.
Really? Yeah,
It was Blue Cross Blue Shield was offering it, I think it was.
I
Because
switched
they got
providers.
millions of people, their files got
Yeah.
exposed and whatnot. So they offered them free for 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
So did you not know about this?
Know about Blue Cross
Yeah,
Blue Shield?
yeah, and then you get the All-Clear
Mm-hmm.
File Alert.
Yeah, I did
Did you
know.
sign up for it? Are you good on it?
Oh, I switched providers. Yeah, I
Right
didn't.
afterwards you did, what the hell with it?
Yeah, I was just like, I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna move on to somebody
I
else.
just got it yesterday too. It says,
Oh.
there's no fraudulent activity.
Really?
All those things you brought up, what they can do with
Mm-hmm.
your information, because they have your driver's license number, your social security number, your date of birth and all that, and people can start opening up, lines of credit and credit cards and whatnot, and just drain your bank account.
Yeah. It can be pretty serious. I actually heard about that before I even took the class. And I really didn't know a whole lot about laws and ethics as is. So I was just kind of like, get away from that gray area. I don't understand it. I don't want to. I'm not ready for that. But then as I started taking the class, I was like, oh, this is a serious thing. I should really pay attention to this because as a young, healthy individual, I'm like a prime candidate for somebody to steal my records or even my insurance. Ugh. So yeah.
Your presentation is really of note today, because what will happen if this happens to you and you get hacked and whatnot, and then they start running lines of credit or whatnot, it's going to ruin your credit completely.
Mm-hmm.
Your chance of trying to buy a new car, borrow money, or buy a house, borrow money, it's nil. They're not going to loan you the money anymore.
Yeah.
And you're trying to explain to all these people, no, it wasn't me. I was hacked and whatnot. And they're going, well, our records indicate yada yada yada. We don't know about this. And it can really ruin your life.
Yeah, it can do a downer, and that's on top of having your medical identity stolen. A lot of times, people don't even have their identity stolen, and they're already racking up bills in Medicare services and stuff. So it can get pretty ugly. Yeah.
It's something to really be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with the technology is great, but it can also be a real bane or a hindrance on your life.
Yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Are there any other questions or comments, concerns? Yes.
So is there any degree of any sort of program for forgiveness? So let's say you get your identity stolen, whether it's medical or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any sort of program that you can enter where there will be some sort of permanent stamp on your records indicating, oh, this happened, right, and so forth?
Mm-hmm. As far as I could tell, there's not. As a governmental type thing, like we've got you, we know that this is going on. I don't think there is, but I'm pretty sure if you got in touch with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, they would definitely step in and help you. But as far as putting an alert on, I'm not sure they go that far, but they should, absolutely, yeah.
My question was going to be, how has this project kind of impacted you personally and what you might do in the future career-wise?
Okay, yeah, this project has impacted me a lot. From multiple standpoints, not only being a healthcare administration major, but also kind of growing up with having my father being a doctor. I'm kind of getting it from every angle, kind of seeing the clinical side as a patient, but also seeing the business side. But I've obviously go to the doctor quite a bit for my own health reasons, and I will say that I've gone and they'll say, hey, you got blood work on the 12th of December, is that right? And I'm like, no, I didn't. And they're like, oh, well, you were getting checked for this. And I'm like, oh, that's right, yes, I did get checked for that. So getting my medical record, I'm guilty of. That's something that I also need to do. As far as continuing, I would like to eventually someday be an administrator of a hospital. I'll start small somewhere. I'm thinking like several years down the road. I want to get a lot of experience first. Maybe start as an administrator of an assisted living community and get those certifications and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So knowing what you know, how would that impact you as a potential healthcare administrator? Like, what would you do differently, or how would you potentially try to make changes or make policies to potentially make things better?
Okay. So if I were an administrator of a hospital, how would I implement?
Based on what you've learned.
Yeah, I would definitely have an action plan if there's not already. That's definitely important to me. I would absolutely be pretty close to 100% transparent with the issue. I would absolutely let the community know what's happened, and I would definitely provide a service, maybe something similar to what Professor Stephenson said. Things like that. I would definitely have an ethical hacker service come in and test our services regularly. Yeah, definitely.
More proactive.
Yes, more proactive rather than reactive. That's very important. So, any more? I think I'm all out of time.
I was just going to comment on really what I'm saying, what he's saying here too, is that I think after the all clear identity alert, after 2 years expires, do they guarantee $1 million safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll just keep this, going, and then you have to pay for it, but really you're paying, with all the insurance you're paying anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Might as well just go ahead and get this, and they guarantee up to $1 million in case you do get the problems that you come up with.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you might as well just.
Really good to have.
Thank you. Was there a question back there, really quick? No? Are you good? Okay, I wasn't sure. All right. Well, thank you for coming.